Meghan Markle married for money, that she planned it all from the beginning, and the vision board with Prince Harry on it was revealed to her by someone who knew Trevor Engels.
August 4th, 40 years ago, Meghan was born, and she was born as a C-section, so she was put in my arm. I was the first person to hold her. Her little hand went on my fingers like that, and I fell in love with her, and I had been that way for 40 years.
They thought the storm around Meghan Markle had finally burned itself out, that the drama had peaked, faded, and settled into the background like so many celebrity controversies before it.
Holy shit. He said what?
That assumption turned out to be dangerously wrong. This time, the damage didn't come from palace insiders, leaked emails, or another explosive tabloid headline. It came from somewhere far closer, from inside her own family, from the one person who knew her long before the titles, before the couture.
Do you still love your daughter?
Of course I do. I love my children. I love my other daughter. I love my son. Of course I love.
Before the cameras ever followed her, her father. Thomas Markle didn't step forward quietly. He didn't test the waters or drop vague hints. He walked straight into the spotlight and started dismantling the version of Meghan the public thought it knew. Not with petty grievances or emotional rambling, but with pointed claims that hit at the foundation of the image she spent years constructing.
This is Meghan's first trip to the snow. Dad took her up to Big Bear.
What he revealed wasn't the kind of story people scroll past without a second thought. It was the kind that makes you stop mid-sentence, reread, and start questioning everything you assumed was settled. These weren't awkward family disputes or old grudges being aired out. According to Thomas, they were patterns, choices.
Her childhood was with me.
Behaviors that had been hidden behind perfect lighting and carefully chosen words. And suddenly, the reaction around Meghan shifted. Supporters went quiet. Allies stopped rushing to defend. Even people who had stood firmly in her corner began asking themselves uncomfortable questions. Not out loud, but enough for the silence to feel different this time.
Every time we had a chance to go somewhere and do something, we would. And I got it through high school. I got it through college.
Because after claims like these surface, every move matters. Every appearance, every statement, every pause becomes magnified. One misstep doesn't just create backlash. It can unravel years of careful image building in seconds. Long before royal protocols and global attention, Meghan and her father were close. By Thomas's account, he wasn't a distant figure in her life. He was deeply involved, emotionally invested, financially supportive. He believed in her ambitions when they were still fragile and uncertain, backing her dreams with his own savings and standing behind her when success was anything but guaranteed.
I certainly spent a lot of my life with her. I don't know how she can throw all of
that relationship, he says, didn't slowly fade. It stopped abruptly. Once royal life entered the picture, communication dried up. Calls went unanswered. Messages disappeared. Gratitude turned into silence. While Meghan's life accelerated into global prominence, Thomas says he was left behind, dealing with serious health issues alone, feeling erased from a story he once helped build. That hurt didn't just linger. It hardened. And when private attempts to reconnect failed, he made a decision that would change everything.
Well, that's her first wedding in Jamaica. That's one of my favorite pictures. I'd like to have that experience with my granddaughter.
If you could get just one message across to your daughter now, what would it be?
As always, I do love you, and I wish we could sit down and talk about it. I'm not an ogre. I'd love to talk to her.
If he couldn't be acknowledged quietly, he would speak publicly. And when he did, the picture he painted was far darker than anyone expected. Thomas didn't just criticize. He challenged the authenticity of the persona the world sees today. He claimed the poised, polished figure presented in interviews and documentaries bears little resemblance to the daughter he raised. According to him, ambition was always there, sharp, focused, and uncompromising. And as her image evolved, anyone who no longer fit that image was pushed aside without hesitation. Family members, old friends, even people who simply questioned her direction. He says they weren't confronted or explained away. They were erased, cut off cleanly, no discussions, no second chances.
I remember when she was born, big new addition to the family, and we just have a very young sister here.
He also hinted at tensions during her early Hollywood years that never made it into the success narrative. Arguments over money, disputes that turned personal, and a growing fixation on controlling the story at all costs. A past that didn't align with the future image wasn't revised. it was removed.
There's a lot that's been lost already, and I grieve a lot. I mean, I've lost my father.
I believe she had a clear motive for writing family off because it would seemingly justify and perhaps delay the revelation of all of the lies that she had told the royal family.
What Thomas described wasn't reinvention, it was replacement. As he continued speaking, the spotlight snapped back onto Meghan with renewed intensity. The public started reassessing old interviews, revisiting past claims, and comparing them against these new allegations. The certainty people once felt began to dissolve. Even those who admired her confidence started wondering where confidence ended. And something colder began, where charm gave way to calculation, where resilience blurred into rigidity.
She was good enough that seemingly in her mind, she had to inflate who she was to garner false admiration and to be accepted by the royals, instead of saying, look, I've worked very hard. My family was upper middle class. He put me through the best schools. He did the best he could. He loved me. He sacrificed. And for that, I'm grateful. Instead, what she did was engage in self-glorification and leave everybody else out of the equation as if she existed in a vacuum. In my opinion, she would still be a waitress if it wasn't for Dad.
Whispers that once sounded like exaggerations began resurfacing with new weight. Former staff accounts, stories of impossible expectations, sudden silences, emotional whiplash behind closed doors. Thomas didn't dismiss those reports. He reinforced them, saying Meghan had always expected the world to bend to her will, even if it fractured family bonds in the process. What once looked like strength now sparked suspicion. What once inspired admiration began raising eyebrows. And the question that lingered, quietly at first, then louder, was unavoidable. Was this all performance, or was the version being revealed now the one that had been there all along, hidden in plain sight? And for the first time in a long time, even her most loyal supporters weren't so sure anymore. Once Thomas Markle finally decided to speak, he didn't ease into it. There were no careful pauses, no softened language, no attempt to protect feelings. He went straight to the cameras and said what he claimed he'd been holding inside for years. And what came out hit hard. He accused Meghan Markle of cutting off her entire family while simultaneously presenting herself to the world as someone who champions compassion, unity, and unconditional love. According to Thomas, that public message didn't match the private reality at all. The picture he described wasn't polished or strategic. It was raw, emotional, and deeply personal. He said Meghan had promised him she would always be there, promised support.
I made one dumb mistake, and I'm never being forgiven for it. And this show that they're on, they talk about compassion. There's no compassion for me. There's no compassion for my family. And there's no compassion for the royal.
Promised that fame and titles wouldn't change their bond. But when serious medical emergencies hit, he claims she disappeared completely. No calls, no messages, no concern, nothing. While Thomas says he faced health scares alone, Meghan's life, in his telling, was accelerating in the opposite direction. Palaces, red carpets, global attention, cameras flashing, contracts being signed, smiles perfectly placed for the world to see. He described watching it all from the outside, feeling erased from a story he once helped build. With every interview he gave, another piece of Meghan's carefully curated narrative cracked. The underdog story, the misunderstood heroine, the woman fighting against cruelty.
He was turning 80 years old, very much struggling in terms of his health. He had a stroke which took away his ability to speak. And despite the fact that his daughter and his son-in-law, Prince Harry, are two of the richest, most privileged people in the world, they are not paying a single thing to help him, not providing a dime towards his medical care.
Thomas's words didn't just challenge those ideas, they collided with them. Viewers who once saw Meghan as a symbol of strength began to hesitate. Thomas's pain, his frustration, his isolation were hard to ignore. And slowly, the questions changed. Was Meghan's silence really about protecting her mental health? Or was it something far more calculated? Because as Thomas kept talking, her polished image seemed to slip further each time, behind the glossy photos, the sleek press statements, and the perfectly timed appearances. A sense of instability began to creep in.
Before she met Harry, you had no doubt she was your sister.
My little sister, though, I said, if there was any descriptive qualifier, she was my little sis.
I would have loved to have had siblings. That's why I'm so excited to be pregnant, that Archie has someone.
Because she was quite clear. In her mind, she didn't have a sister, didn't have a brother.
But
Thomas knew exactly what kind of pressure his words created. He understood that one wrong sentence could shake everything Meghan had built. The brand deals, the streaming contracts, the carefully maintained sympathy narrative. And that knowledge sparked panic behind the scenes. Sources claim Meghan's team went into crisis mode. Legal threats were discussed, media strategies debated, silence weighed against counterattacks. The question wasn't whether Thomas was damaging her image, it was how to stop him before he said even more. But every time Thomas spoke, the opposite happened. The public leaned in closer. Views climbed. Whispers turned into headlines. And then came the realization that changed everything. Silencing him would only make it worse. And Meghan, according to insiders, was furious.
That Meghan Markle really did expect Harry to be a billionaire when she met him. She was incredibly disappointed to find out he's only worth a couple million, and she's gonna have to actually work and hawk these jams and jellies and dog biscuits to have the lifestyle that
What she had always kept tightly controlled, her private family history, was now unraveling in public. The vulnerability she worked so hard to conceal was suddenly exposed, and there was no way to put it back. With each new interview, the cracks widened. The image of the calm, unbothered Duchess began to fracture visibly. Every hint Thomas dropped about undisclosed moments or unresolved conflicts struck directly at the core of her reputation. It started to feel like everything rested on a knife's edge.
She's already gotten the benefit of her bargain with Harry because she got the title. That's what she wanted. She wanted to be world famous. She wanted the title. You remember when Harry was single, he was the elephant. He was the one, the most eligible bachelor on earth. You could be a royal. You could become world famous overnight. You could live in a castle. You could have access to the crown jewels. You would be a princess. My God, yes, he could have had his pick.
One more revelation away from real damage. As his comments dominated headlines, a new wave of whispers began circulating fast. Behind the million-dollar homes, luxury travel, and high-gloss appearances, insiders claimed things weren't as stable as they looked. Failed projects, stalled deals, brand money slowing down. The lifestyle no longer aligned with the income. And every time Thomas spoke, it fed the growing perception that Meghan's reputation problems were dragging everything down with them.
Meghan Markle is always attempting to, shall we say, build relationships with very, very, very rich men.
Reports began hinting at rising tension between Meghan and Harry. Failed ventures, enormous security costs, constant pressure to maintain an image that was becoming harder to sell. The idea of an unstoppable power couple started to wobble. Without holding back, Thomas gave critics fresh ammunition.
He just can't give her anything else anymore. He served his purpose. His purpose is over, and they're no longer aligned in purpose. So it's for her, it's time to move on.
Each emotional sentence gave the public another reason to ask an uncomfortable question. Was Meghan's relentless pursuit of success really worth the family fallout left behind? Insiders claimed brands were growing cautious. Executives hesitated. The controversy around her name made partnerships feel risky. And while Meghan and Harry continued appearing together, smiling on cue, projecting unity, the pressure behind the scenes only intensified. Through it all, Thomas's unfiltered, unapologetic voice kept cutting through the noise, reminding the world that this wasn't just a PR problem. It was a family rupture, one so deep that no amount of polish could fully hide it anymore.
The royal wedding. I was watching her and I was watching Harry, and there was something, in my opinion, missing in their eyes. It didn't seem real to me.
Would have been nice to be invited.
For my dad.
Oh, for you and your brother as well. I mean, there are plenty of spare places in the pews. George Clooney's scored a spot.
Yeah, and he came out later and said he didn't really.
She spent years shielding that image. Millions of dollars poured into shaping a version of herself that looked untouchable, composed, and above the chaos. But with her father's words now hanging over everything like a gathering storm, people are starting to ask a dangerous question. How long can a carefully managed illusion survive when the truth keeps pushing through the cracks? Right now, Meghan stands on ground that no longer feels solid. Every new statement Thomas makes strips away another layer, pulling back the curtain on a version of her the public was never meant to see. The polished speeches, the warm interviews, the inspirational messaging, all of it is being re-examined through a very different lens. The real question isn't just what move Meghan makes next. It's whether there is a move that can undo damage that didn't come from tabloids or critics, but from inside her own family. That's the kind of fracture no PR firm knows how to fix. As more people begin questioning who Meghan truly is when the cameras shut off, one thing becomes impossible to ignore. This may be the first crisis she can't outrun. No rebrand, no carefully timed appearance, no perfectly worded statement seems strong enough to quiet what's been unleashed. And while she scrambles to control the narrative, seal the cracks, and preserve the image she fought so hard to build, the public isn't looking away this time. They're watching closely, waiting, not for another statement, but for the moment everything finally gives way. Because this isn't just about reputation anymore, it's about credibility. And once that collapses, there's no rebuilding it the same way. If you think this revelation was shocking, brace yourself, because what surfaced next pushed this story into territory no one expected. A past Meghan never wanted revisited, a relationship she hoped would stay buried, and a single moment that may have changed everything forever. Click the video on your screen right now to see how deep this really goes. Only here on Star Spotlight. And if you don't want to miss what's coming next, make sure to like, subscribe, share, and drop your thoughts in the comments below. We'll see you in the next video.